Hi, what is your name?
AlysaWaller?
Okay. Have you been interviewed for this project yet?
No.
Okay. What neighborhood are you from?
I am from Chicago.
How long have you lived in Chicago?
5 years.
And can you tell us like a specific neighborhood in Chicago?
I don't know the name. Hyde Park.
Okay. What role do you play in your community?
Um, what role do I play?
Are you like in any organizations, maybe sports, maybe church, clubs, anything?
Um, I'm in a lot of sports. Basketball, track, soccer, and all that stuff.
Okay. So what is your definition of a community? What comes to mind when you think of a community?
What comes to mind when I think of community? I would say people and their role.
So when you
It
say
defines the community.
what type of people?
It could just be regular people, citizens that live in the community, not outside.
Okay. So your community would be like a place close to you, like where you live.
Yes.
Okay. So how have you been impacted by your community?
It made me more humble and realize I have it good, better than other people.
So can you give us an example of what you mean when you say humble?
Well, I lived in Texas, Dallas. I moved around a lot, and it made me kind of selfish because I had everything, and so did everybody else. I didn't really have to give back or anything like that. But when I came here, I noticed it was totally different. So I started giving back more and realizing that other people went through worse situations than me.
So how would your life be different if you lived somewhere else other than Chicago?
How would my life be different?
So you could compare to Texas since you said you used to live in Texas. Like, how has your life been different compared to when you were in Texas?
Well, I had more opportunities because it was just given to me. Here, I have to work for everything, which I really like. It actually shows that I'm capable of stuff I didn't even know I was capable of.
So can you give examples of things that you like, things that were given to you back then, but now you actually have to work for those things?
Track, I was invited to Europe to do shot put and discus. That was sophomore year, just by throwing like not a far distance at all compared to what I'm throwing to now. And I've been invited to Clark to throw for them, so yeah.
Okay. If you could change anything about your community, what would it be?
I would say the violence, the shooting.
So what do you mean by that?
I'm getting tired of waking up in the middle of the night hearing gunshots, so I would like to change that.
So do you have any specific way that you think you can change that? Do you have anything in mind that you think you could contribute to be able to change it?
I guess more organizations to keep people's minds off of it.
Off the violence or like different struggles that they have in life?
Different struggles that they have in life.
Okay, and do you think that has impacted you in any way, like having to wake up hearing gunshots in the middle of the night?
Yes, because in Texas there weren't really any gunshots. It was quiet, it was nice, the people were nice. Here, sometimes I get scared, sometimes. That's too much information. But yeah.
So do you think the media does a good job at portraying the amount of violence that goes on in Chicago?
Sometimes the media does do that, but also they take it overboard. Some things that they say happen in Chicago don't really happen in Chicago.
Okay. If you could change another thing about your community, what would that be?
Another thing. Other than violence?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's okay if violence is like the major issue that you have.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. So how do you think your community is viewed by other people?
It's very negative. When people think of Chicago, they think, oh, it's a beautiful city, but it's also negative. And they think Chicago is just really black when there is some diversity here.
So since you said you lived in Texas, when you were in Texas, what did you think of about Chicago?
When I was in Texas, everybody thought Chicago was bad. And I was like, it's not even that bad. It's not even that bad. But when I moved here, I actually saw what they were talking about. So, yeah, a lot of outsiders don't know what violence is until they come to Chicago, if that makes sense.
So you think it's up to par what people actually say the amount of violence is actually true?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you think people view your community? You already said it. And do you think that's unfair or you think it's just?
I think it's unfair because a lot of people haven't lived in Chicago who are saying the bad things about Chicago. They go based off of statistics. That's why I feel like it's just. But if you actually live here, it's bad, but it's not that bad. You learn to live with it.
So you think people should actually have experienced it before they say anything about Chicago? Okay. All cities deal with violence. How do you think the issue of violence in Chicago compares to other major cities? Do you think it's worse? Do you think it's the same? Do you think it's better?
Some areas I think it's the same. I've also lived in Houston, Texas, where violence is bad there as well.
Is it as bad as Chicago or is it worse than Chicago? And by violence, do you mean like gun violence or what type of violence?
I mean, I would say gun violence is worse in Chicago, but in Houston, more like, what's the word? More like, I can't figure out the word. Stealing and
like
rape
petty
stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. What are top 3 issues or concerns that you would like to start a dialogue with your community about? I would assume violence is one of them.
Yeah.
So 2 other things you would like to start a dialogue about? Maybe schools, maybe lack of organizations, maybe the roads, maybe littering.
I don't know. I think schools. You talking about Chicago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, in Chicago, yes, most definitely. Violence, schools, and I would say, can drugs be one of them?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, drugs.
So can you elaborate on schools and drugs since you already talked about violence?
Schools. Okay, so when I was in Texas, they focused on a lot of Texas U.S. history. And here they focus on more black history, I would say. And I just feel like, what am I trying to say?
Like more diversified, not just focused on one specific
exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the drugs.
I see a lot of drug addicts on the street, and I see a lot of homeless people on the street because of drugs, and I see a lot of my family members get hooked on drugs and then turn to one of those homeless people. So I would just like to stop that.
So is this just in Chicago or like
It's
Chicago?
just in Chicago.
Okay. If you were in charge of the media, what would you show? Like Chicago media, you're in charge for one day. You had the power to show anything you wanted. What would you show?
I would show. I don't just want it all to be bad though. So I think I would show.
Like more positive things instead of just focusing on like the violence.
Yeah, that would be kind of a lie as well because there is negative and positive everywhere we live. So I think I would show like the streets and not every neighborhood, but in most neighborhoods to show the difference.
So why not every neighborhood? Why just certain neighborhoods?
I can't get to every neighborhood in a day.
Okay. So if you had like a longer period of time to do that, you would okay. How do you see Chicago in the future?
I see it being good. There's a lot of smart, intelligent. There's a lot of intelligent people and prideful people and basically positive people in Chicago, not just drug dealers and stuff like that. There's a lot of other people who actually care for this neighborhood, so I think it would be good.
So do you see yourself still being part of a community in Chicago in the future? Or you're thinking about moving somewhere else?
I'm thinking about moving somewhere else.
Why is that? And if you don't mind sharing, where?
Because of educational reasons.
So for college, you're planning to move somewhere else?
Yes.
Okay, is there a specific reason why?
Because I want to diversify myself.
Okay. So are there any other questions that you would like for me to ask? Okay, thank you for your time.